one of the things that I'm trying to do with my show is talk about how privilege really messes with everybody. It's like there's that saying that
Exactly.
power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I would argue that privilege morphs, or somehow privilege influences your worldview in a negative way. And the greater the privilege, the more it warps your worldview. I mean,
Exactly.
th-
I completely agree, and I can even see that in my like friend groups. Like like there's a huge difference between friends of mine that just always they've always struggled or what have you. And there's a big difference between them and those who have just had it just like good, have just been swimming through life like nothing because they have everything provided for them. They've never had to like wonder like where their next meal is coming from. Like literally living lives of not exactly luxury, but total privilege. Like a friend that still lives with their parents and like just has everything provided for them. They don't even have a job because like what's the point? Like my parents pay for everything anyway. Or another friend who is sitting on a whole bunch of money and doesn't really have to like works a job, but they're always going out on cruises or out to festivals and just generally doesn't understand like doesn't really know how to identify suffering as well. Like a lot of the time, like if you're sitting like in a really privileged position, you're not able to identify that. Like so, you're not able to like really relate to friends that like are going through a rough time or are super depressed or are just struggling financially or you know just not overall not doing well, you know. And I think privilege has a lot to do with like that mindset. Because you're not able to relate, you know. I completely agree.
and I think maybe we should take a second to acknowledge what we did when we were talking about labor, which is that there are levels of privilege, and I think
Of course.
privilege starts where you don't have to worry about food on the table.
Yeah.
And then I think growing up, the next level of privilege is not whether or not you're going to go to college, but which college are you going to go to.
Right.
And then within that, there are levels of like which kind of college you're going to go to, and that leads to more and more privilege. But it kind of is,
Yeah.
it's like these really steep ladders. Then some are steeper than others, and the better educational opportunities you can get early on in your life, the steeper that ladder is. And my original point was just it's too bad that so many see that as a ladder for material success as opposed to a legacy success, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I really care about it. We're not here for that long. We're only here for 80, 90 years, and those last 10, 20 years aren't very fun.
Right.
So, like let's make sure that we do something that matters instead of just making a bunch of money. And now, hey, that's easy for me to say. I grew up with that privilege of not having to worry about money and understanding that I was definitely going to go to college and not come out of it in debt.
Right.
So that was a ton of privilege for me, and I'm grateful for it. And
Yeah.
but with that said, I made the most of it. Like I took those learning opportunities seriously, and I am proud that I didn't come out of them because I was on that track of just focusing on money. I mean, I
Yeah.
got a premier job in corporate America coming out of college, and I just said, "Screw this. This isn't important. This doesn't matter." Working for these giant telecom companies so they can make a
Yeah.
few extra pennies every day, a few extra pennies per customer every year. Like, give me a break. I don't care. I
Yeah.
want to change the world, man. There's
Yeah.
so many problems with the world. It's like I saw somebody pointed out to me this social psychology research that suggests white liberals are in like between the ages of 25 and 45 are like the most oppressed people in our country. And I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, first off, because they're educated, they know how messed up the world is, how unfair the world is when it should be a lot further along. Like, we are not where we are at as a race,
Yeah.
in order setting ourselves up for future success. So that's one thing. Because of their education, they know how unfair and just cruel the world is. And then because they're white and educated, they probably came from some kind of privilege. They
Yeah.
think that they can do something about it. And a little bit of my white privilege entitlement is that one of the reasons I'm so pissed and gotten into political commentary is because I was promised
Mhm.
when I was young. I was promised back in the 90s, before you were born, that all this stuff in the Middle East, all this infighting, especially after 9/11, bipartisanship was back.
Mhm.
And I was promised that things were going to get better. And every single major issue has gotten worse.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything, any major issue in our society that's gotten better
Yeah. I
in the
mean,
last 45 years.
yeah, I mean, nothing really comes to mind either. I mean, I guess like the only thing that really does like come to mind is I guess crime overall has gone down, at least violent crime, I guess, in the last 20, 30 years. But that can be probably chalked up to the fact that we're a lot more distractible as a society, you know? And I that's the only thing I can really come up with,
Well,
honestly.
the war on drugs got toned down too.
Yeah, yeah, that as well.